as they go by. And then tell them you'll buy them lunch or something like that. Down at the Connect Cafe, 50-cent cinnamon muffins or something like that. All right, well, I'm going to preach to you. And I want to remind those of you that are in the Fort Worth area, or if you just want to watch tonight, 6 o'clock, we go live, Flashpoint. I'll get on the airplane right after the second service, and we'll be in Fort Worth. And then it starts at 6, and I don't know what time they're going to end. Lou Engle will be there, Dutch Sheets, and someone else. I'll be there, and then another person. Donnelly, what was her name? And forgive me if you're watching, ma'am, I forget how to pronounce it. But anyway, it's all good, right? So you can go there, and then I'll be on Flashpoint Monday night, Tuesday night, and then Wednesday, we're going to do something really cool, and I want you to hear this. Brenda and I are going to just put a table out here, and we're going to just do a sit-down where as we were on vacation, we were praying over it. We just felt like the Lord said, you know what, encourage the people on how to fine-tune their hearing of God. So we're going to talk about just, some practical things of how do you hear from God? And I think sometimes you'll be shocked that you hear from God more than what you realize. And Brendan was just sharing with me on the way over here a great little nugget that, and I'm not going to tell you what it is, you got to wait, but I was like, hey, I wanted to have that one. But anyway, it's really powerful, and it's probably better than all the points that I'm going to make. So make sure that you're here for that. Okay, let's open our Bibles to Deuteronomy chapter 15. Listen, while we were on vacation, man, was it a crazy 2 weeks. I got a call from Pastor Gene. And he goes, can you come on Flashpoint? And so that's why I was on the day that all that nonsense happened in Pennsylvania. And I told him, I said, Pastor Gene, you and I have got to stop going on vacation, because whenever we do, we have to. And, I just knew that it was important to be there for God and, to speak to you. But, so many prophecies are coming to pass. I was actually going to share a few of them this morning, but I decided let's just do a prophetic pulse, because I really want to go back and show you some prophecies that are very, very profound that have to do with where we're at right now. A lot of people are looking at this new candidate, for example, that didn't do nothing in the last 3.5 years, and now they're going to, hopefully try to pull on the black vote and the woman vote, and it's already working, and supposedly the poll numbers have escalated and things have evened out. Are you kidding me? And somebody that hasn't done anything for 3.5 years has got that kind of traction? It's a joke. So don't be duped. Don't be fooled, and don't let them, listen to me, I love you. Don't let them play the race card anymore. Okay, don't let them do it. Don't let them do it. It ought to be more important than that. Okay, look at policies, look at fruit. That's what Jesus said, you judge a tree by their fruit. Okay, look at the nasty stuff that has happened. And I can't wait till we get something back in that has some sanity about it. And hopefully what they'll do is they'll fire everybody that was on the Olympic Committee for allowing a mockery against our Lord. It's amazing how they always want to pick on Jesus, because that ought to be proof that He is the only way, He is the only truth, and He is the only life. They didn't pick on any other false god or any other false entity. They picked on our Lord. And let me tell you something. You pick a wrong fight when you fight with God. He will not be mocked. The gates of hell will not prevail over His church. In fact, when I was standing down there, I heard a profound word. I heard, thus saith the Lord, and He was not happy about something. He's happy with us. Pat yourself on the back. Thank God, thank God, thank God. Well, thank God to be on your good side, God. I wouldn't want to be on the other side. But anyway, maybe I'll deliver it in Fort Worth tonight. But we'll see. It was strong. And He ain't playing. And if they think that, to them, it's a game. No, it ain't. You don't mock the risen Christ. So some of you need to speak up. And don't you dare give the Olympics 1 ounce of your time. They know better. They knew better. And you know why I wouldn't give any ounce of time? Because notice how nobody from the Olympic Committee has done anything. That's your proof. Well, I want to support the athletes. Well, support them in the newspaper. All right? Support them individually. Anyway. Welcome back. I mean, I'm waiting. I'm waiting for, that Horseshack. Oh, Pastor Hank. Remember that? You guys are too young to remember Welcome Back, Cotter. Remember John Drip, Mr. Cotter, Pastor Kunneman, I'm back. So here I am. All right, look at Deuteronomy 15. I want to talk to you about something that the Lord put in my heart that I hadn't planned on going this way, but it was something that He really wanted me to share with you. And I was going to preach on preservation again, and the Lord said, no, that's not where I want you to go. I want you to look at Deuteronomy chapter 15, verse 1. Now, this is really interesting. At the end of every 7 years, underline 7 years, thou shalt make a release. So there was a time when God said, at the end of 7 years, there is coming something of the God kind. There's coming something that is supernatural, divine. It's the God factor. Where debts would be canceled, it would affect people individually, it would affect them nationally. And in fact, God would reset the whole financial scape of things. If there was anyone that had any debt with anyone, they were to be forgiven. It was an amazing release after 7 years. And God spoke to me and He said, go back and look. He said, I want to show you something. He said, you saw this, man saw this, but He said, I also knew. Because God is not held to our calendar dates. He's not held to our time frames. This is why He's been saying that we are in the time of the great fall. Okay, this is a time where God has ordained His season that happens to be part of spring and summer and winter, where there's a great fall. Kingdoms, leaders are beginning to fall. A great reset is being established by God. But something happened, if you remember, in 2017. It's been over 7 years ago. President Trump was inaugurated. You remember that? 2017. And when he went down on the escalator, all hell broke loose. Not only from the bowels of hell, but things began to break loose from those who cooperate with hell and are bent on evil. They began like crazy to try to frame and say things to create narratives. Come on, Russia. The fake dossier, the Mueller report that was this high with how much of your tax dollars was spent on their buffoonery that they never ever came clean on. And the war was on. And people don't realize that when that happened, when that hand went on that Bible, and there was something of God that came upon the man, but came upon the plan, hell began to respond and react to the point where it manipulated things in 2020. And really, it began to show how dark and how evil things are. But yet God allowed this to happen over the last few years to bring us to this place now where we are seeing what evil looks like. Now we're going to see what righteousness looks like. We're going to see what justice looks like. We're going to see what a nation looks like filled with the glory of God. But if you look at what happened, from the time of 2017 to now, we are after 7 years. We are in a process of something. Now, if you look at the news, if you read the headlines, if you listen to things that are going on, probably most of what you're hearing is not true. In fact, Flashpoint had reached out to me in different ones, and they said, hey, would you go on this and comment? And I went to the Lord about it because I was on vacation. I said, God, I feel so out of the zone, man. I'm getting people wanting me to comment and different things that are going on. Should I? What are you saying? And the Lord said, no, I'm not speaking to you about this. And I said, why? He said, I want you to rest. And then He said, don't comment about these things. I said, why? He said, Hank, a lot of it is not true. And you will get caught up in speculation. And do not put thus saith the Lord upon it. Because a lot of what they're saying is not true. Both sides. And it's all going to come out. And you're going to see what has really happened and what's happening in the bigger scope of things. You know, they wanted me to comment about, the vice president and this and that. Well, Pastor, you saw a strong woman stand by President Trump. You said that. Then you saw a strong man. Yes, I did. And I told you I didn't know the order. And I don't know what that strong woman is. It might be his wife. It might be some woman that rises up into power. I don't know. God never said, thus saith the Lord, is vice president. He never said a woman would be vice president. He said a strong woman and a strong man. See, we speculate. We get into trouble. We put our interpretation on things, and this is where we miss it. And we have to let things play out. There are still things that you think are going to be, but they're going to change over the next 30 to 45 days. I'm telling you, you're going to see a lot of things begin to shift. So why am I saying this? Go back to the verse. At the end of 7 years, I believe, notice it's at the end. So once 7 years ends, there's a process. What's the process? It's the Lord's release. I'm telling you, something has happened since January of this year that is part of the Lord's release. And it's why evil looks like it's escalating for a moment. Do you imagine the escalation that took place when here Israel is on the beach and they have nowhere to go? They can't go to the right. They can't go to the left. They can't go behind him because Pharaoh and his army are pursuing them. And all they have is a hopeless situation, so it seems, of a Red Sea in front of them. Can you imagine how it escalated when all of a sudden the chariots are getting closer and the dust is getting closer and they can hear the sounds of the chariot wheels and their of the pursuing army? It looked like they as a nation, as a people, were going down. Do not get caught up, the Spirit of God is saying, in the chatter, the noise, the speculation, and the misinformation that is being thrown at you now. What we have to do is stretch forth our rod and keep going forward as a people. That's why you don't base voting for Kakala because she's black or she's a woman. She's got blood on her hands in many ways. And if you want to continue to see babies killed, and they don't care about, and open borders, right? And how it's amazing how quickly she went and met with RuPaul, the drag queen dude. They're showing you who they are. And you're going to put your race and your gender, which gender never mattered before. Come on, we better be smarter. But can you imagine how hopeless it must have looked to Israel? The sound as they got closer and closer and closer. Yet there was something that was happening. Well, Pastor Hank, what was it? Well, it's the same thing that happened. Can you imagine when all of a sudden you're outside of a fiery furnace of three boys who would not bow to the culture, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They threw them in. They said, you bow. They said, we will not bow. So guess what they did? Hello, they turned up the fire 7 times hotter. Can you imagine if you were standing back what you would think? Oh my God, this thing is over. No, it was part of the process of the fourth man, Jesus, to show up and bring the Lord's release. Can you imagine Daniel in the lion's den? He gets thrown in. And the king is so worried because he listened to the wrong information. That's my biggest concern with these political people, is they get around the wrong advisors. President Trump, I'm speaking to you. Watch who is talking to you right now. You need to have the right people, because some people carry a spirit on them that can seduce even the strongest. Remember Samson. It was the speaking of a woman, a spirit through Delilah, that took out his eyes and he was not able to see correctly. You must protect who you have around you. And you must have those who have eyes that see what you don't see, that know what you don't know. I speak this to you. This is important. Imagine what it would have looked like. Daniel's in the lion's den. The hours go by. He's done. No, something was happening. Angels start showing up. And they stop the mouths of the lions. There was a process that was being played out. Even though 7 times hotter the fire, even though 7 times closer the chariot wheels of Pharaoh and his army. Why am I saying this to you? We are now in 7 months past what God has declared. Something took place in 2024 that has to do with God looking down saying there is a divine release that has come over this country. And it is part of the Lord's removals, it's part of the Lord's unravelings, and it's part of the Lord's divine resets. But if you look at just what's going on because you're listening to the news or you think you know what's really going on, even though not really any of us in this room really do, then you're going to not see that there is a process of the God kind going on that is actually releasing a nation from the buffoonery, the evil, the mockering, whatever you want to call it, mockering, right? It's the Lord's release. Now let's go to verse 2 of Deuteronomy 15. Look at the next thing. This is amazing. And this is the manner of the release. Okay, notice what it did. Every creditor that lends aught unto his neighbor shall release it. In other words, there was a cancellation from credit. I'm telling you, there is a global reset of currency that is coming upon this land and upon the earth. And God said it. He said, we are under a gold standard. You watch how this is going to play out. I've prophesied that for years. And now they're starting to say it. In fact, there was a headline news somebody sent me that says, do you know that we are under a golden age? Just what you prophesied. Notice what God said. It just came through this lips. But I'm not the only one. The point is, God's trying to get his point across. I'm telling you, there is something coming that this inflation, these high interest rates aren't going to be our future. I'm telling you, there is coming a cancellation of debt. Something that God is going to do. You say, well, how do you know that? Because Psalm 105 verse 37 says this, when God brought Israel out, he brought them out of Egypt, from a Marxist socialistic government like we're seeing now. And you know what? They went out, Psalm 105:37, with the silver and the gold. There was a wealth transfer. There was something that God did that empowered the people that were called by his name. This is why, church, don't get caught up in social media bickering and fighting. Because when all this is done, God gave me a dream back in January where I saw this Biden guy, this fake guy, the fake guy. By the way, he sure got taller when he went and made his report. He went from, 6 foot to 7'1". Because they're playing with us. And here's the thing. God said it on the night after the election. I went and spoke to that camera. We're going to show you those videos at the next prophetic pulse where I had that dream. And God said, he said, declare 46 doesn't exist. It's a fake administration. That's what he said. How many remember that? And he hasn't changed his mind, and I'm not going to change what he said. So I don't care what you say, what you write, what you think. Who cares? So it's all going to come out. Oh yeah, I missed that. There was a couple times when I was drinking coffee with Brenda. I said, Brenda, would you just make that noise so I feel like I'm back at church? She said, I'm on vacation. Drink some more coffee. I said, all right. But notice what God did. And back in January, I had this dream where I saw this fake guy, get taken out and blah, 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 removed. Remember that? But I saw God. I was on this big stage, and the Lord said it was the world stage. And a guy was standing over here, and I didn't realize it was an angel, came up to me, and he said, hey, you need to go now, because these people were being brought to justice that were part of this fake thing. They were being brought to justice. And this guy, I thought he was like, big suit guy, but I knew he was an angel. He came to me, he said, come, you have an appointment with the king. And I remember, you know what I said? I was so dumb. I said, you mean King Jesus? And he looked at me with those angel eyes. Like Brenda, when she looks at me like, and he looked at me like, who do you think I'm talking about, bozo? And I guess angels can call you bozo, but I looked up at him. He said, who do you think I was talking about? I said, you mean Jesus? He said, yes. And he has an appointment with you and with others. He wants to reward you for telling the truth and standing for him and with him and for the people. You are going to be rewarded. And when the Lord's release comes, it has to do with finances too. Can you imagine finally being able to buy a house? Or if you do buy a house and you pay and you got an 8% interest rate or 9 or whatever it is, that it's going to go down. Because when God issues a release, it starts manifesting. Psalm 105:37, when God brought him out, He brought him out with silver and gold. There was some financial increase. You're not going to struggle financially as God makes America great again. I'm telling you, you're not. It's not the way of our future. Now notice the next thing. Go back to Deuteronomy 15. Man, I feel like I'm rabbit trailing. I feel like I got the Elmer Fudd anointing up here. Be very, very quiet here. We all rabbit preaching. All right. And this is the manner of release. Every creditor that lends ought unto his neighbor release it, and he shall not exact of his neighbor. In other words, you can't be harsh on him. You can't, no. Or of his brother, because it's called the Lord's release. Now this Lord's release, it had to do with land. It had to do with the whole nation. This was not just an individual release. It was a national release that God expected after 7 years. What am I saying? This is the verse that God is trying to tell us. This is what's in process. Just like when they turned the fiery furnace up 7 times hotter, there was a process to bring deliverance. There was a process when the noise of the chariot wheels and Pharaoh's pursuit and his army were getting closer. Come on, Israel couldn't see that there was a process. It was called go forward. Don't do Psalm 106 verse 7. Remember that? You provoked me at the Red Sea, God said. Put that verse up. Look at Psalm 106 verse 7. So here's where some people are at. Psalm 106, our fathers understood not thy wonders in Egypt. Stop right there. There are people today that have forgotten how good God has been, even over these last disgusting 3.5 years. Look at how good God is. Okay, I mean, it's a miracle that we are all still